and welcome to the project Educating Young Adolescents Living with Abuse for Teachers and the Families They Serve. This is Olivia Pope, and I am a student at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina, majoring in middle grades education with concentrations in mathematics and English language arts. I am making this video to educate and advocate on behalf of the thousands of middle school students who are exposed to abusive and/or neglectful situations. But before I begin, I would like to do a short tribute to just a few of the young adolescents who have lost their lives this past decade due to abuse. However difficult it is to follow such heartbreaking images, it is important to recognize that a few of them may look familiar. They were from North Carolina. In the United States, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, define child abuse as any act or series of acts of commission or omission by a parent or other caregiver that results in harm, potential for harm, or threat of harm to a child. There are four major categories of child abuse: physical abuse, psychological or emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect. But before we go into more detail about each individual type of abuse, I would like to point out a few statistics about them. Did you know, according to Child Maltreatment Publication of 2009 by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the most common type of abuse is neglect at 59%, followed by physical and sexual abuse. Every 10 seconds a report of child abuse is made. That's over 9,000 reports every day. And who's making these calls? 17% teachers, 16% law enforcement personnel, and 11% social service workers. 37% of child abuse victims are young adolescents between the ages of 8 and 15, and the vast majority of the perpetrators are mothers at 38%. Victims of abuse or neglect are 59% more likely to be arrested as a juvenile, 28% more likely to be arrested as an adult, 30% more likely to commit violent crime, and 60% of prison inmates were abused as children and/or adolescents. And finally, last but not least, abused children or adolescents are 25% more likely to experience teen pregnancy and up to 14 times more likely to commit suicide. So abuse happens all the time behind closed doors, and many times the warning signs and effects are missed by the people and professionals that work with young adolescents every day because they simply do not know what they are, or if they see them, they don't know what to do about it. In the next segment, I will cover the 4 different types of abuse, the effects and warning signs of it, and when the abuse should be reported. Physical abuse is non-accidental physical injury as a result of the following. The physical signs of this type of abuse are unexplained bruises or burns in various stages of healing, self-destructive behavior, welts, human bite marks or bald spots, and unexplained fractures, abrasions, or other injuries. The behavioral warning signs of physical abuse are nervous, hyperactive, aggressive, disruptive, and destructive behavior, unusual apprehensiveness of physical contact, demonstrating fear of parents or caretakers, expressing little or no emotion when hurt, and unusual shyness, passiveness, or withdrawn behavior. Sexual abuse is definitely the most difficult type of abuse to talk about. It is when sexual involvement is imposed on a child or adolescent by an adult who has greater power, knowledge, and resources, including activities by parents or caretakers such as fondling of child's genitals, penetration, incest, rape, sodomy, indecent exposure, and commercial exploitation through prostitution or the production of pornographic materials. The physical symptoms of sexual abuse include sleep disturbances or nightmares, difficulty walking or sitting, pain, itching, bruising, or bleeding in the genitalia, venereal disease, frequent urinary tract or yeast infections, and pregnancy. The behavioral warning signs include engaging in sexual activity that is not age appropriate, detailed and sophisticated understanding of sexual behavior, going back to a behavior such as bedwetting, speech loss, or regression, unwillingness to change into gym clothes or participate in physical education, and poor interpersonal relationships with peers. Emotional abuse usually accompanies all the other types of abuse and neglect, and is defined as any pattern of behavior that impairs emotional development or sense of self-worth, including constant criticism, threats, or rejection, as well as withholding love, support, or guidance. The physical symptoms of emotional abuse include speech disorders, delayed physical or emotional development, and ulcers, asthma, and severe allergies. The behavioral warning signs of emotional abuse include habit disorders such as sucking, rocking, and biting, extreme passive and undemanding demeanor, low self-esteem, exceedingly demanding, aggressive, and angry behavior, conduct disorder, including antisocial and destructive behavior, depression and or suicidal ideation, and attention-seeking behavior. The final type of abuse is neglect, and is a failure to provide for basic needs, which can be broken into three categories: physical, educational, and emotional. Physical neglect is a lack of appropriate supervision or failure to provide food, shelter, or medical care. Educational neglect is a failure to educate a child or adolescent or attend to special educational needs. The third type of neglect, emotional neglect, involves inattention to emotional needs or exposure to domestic violence. The physical signs of neglect include consistent lack of supervision, unattended medical needs, pale and listless appearance, abandonment by parents or caretaker, and consistent hunger, inappropriate dress, poor hygiene, lice, and distended stomach. The behavioral warning signs include poor social skills, craving attention and indiscriminate demonstration of affection, falling asleep in class and regularly displaying fatigue, self-destructive behavior, begging for or stealing food, and frequent school absences or tardiness.